If you want to know what I think, I won't give that up for free. Put a penny in the crusher, on the back's my memory. I'll hold real still, you take the shot, but I don't want to see whether it turns out or not, it's all the same to me. If you want to know how I feel, put me down and walk away. My hands are already bloodied here in bed. I think I'll stay. In dreams I face dread most, mundane when walking down the street. My pounding heart shocks me awake the moment our eyes meet.
Okay, here we go. Welcome to the third episode of Us at Our Worst, a caregiver's unvarnished account of cancer and dementia care during the peak of the COVID pandemic. Yes, all three things, cancer, dementia, and a pandemic, all rolled into one. Each episode of Us at Our Worst will be available as a podcast for listening and on YouTube for viewing. Though I will be reading directly from the as of yet unpublished book, I will also be adding in commentary to help give a fuller picture of events. You can think of these talks like bonus episodes on a DVD if you are old enough to have ever used a DVD. I also need to add some disclaimers. My guess is that Us at Our Worst isn't like any other podcast you have heard before, in that it's not a fun story. It's a nonfiction account that covers topics such as terminal cancer, terminal dementia, and specifically what I believe was behavioral variant frontotemporal dementia. We talk about physical and emotional abuse. There is a ton of swearing. Talk about acute depression, not the cute kind, but acute depression. We're going to be talking about child abuse, downright madness, generational family trauma, the kind that sticks with you, last but not least, drug addiction. So that's a lot of disclaimers. Be forewarned, you have a front row seat to a particularly grim reality. Why am I going through with all of this? Because people shouldn't have to go through such things alone. Caregiving is lonely. It doesn't always have to be, perhaps, but it certainly was for me. And if even one person out there finds comfort in knowing that I went through and survived all of this, let me read that again. And if one person out there finds comfort in knowing that I went through and survived something like all of this, and it's the same thing that they're going through, then that is my why. It gives them hope, or at least understanding. Okay, so if you're still listening, I'm not sure why, but I'm glad you are. And here we go. This is Us at Our Worst, episode 3, recorded on Stardate, Thursday, May 29th. It's 9:33 p.m. The first thing I want to say is that you're going to hear a little bit of road noise. The window to my left is close to a sort of busy street. And the first 2 episodes of this podcast were recorded very late, like midnight, barely any traffic. But at 9:30, we've still got some cars going by. And this is the first podcast that I'm doing that does not have any kind of real sound stage control. I'm not in a quiet space, and I'm just winging it because I need it to be low production, low input. I'm just going for a gritty reality here. Also, for those of you who are watching this in the video format, I just want to add some information like you won't see me looking at the camera, but I'll do it once for you. Hello. Now I'm looking back down. Mostly I'm just going to be focused on what's on my computer screen in front of me as I read through the journal. But even when I'm doing sidebar contextual things, I'm mostly never going to be looking at the camera. But again, for those of you who are watching this in a video format, you might be wondering, why does Charlie have a green pillow in front of him? So I am recording all the sound simply on my Android phone here. I'm using the voice recorder app. And by putting the phone on a pillow, that means that if I ever do something like tap my fingers or, bang the table as I'm trying to make a point, those sounds won't be inadvertently transferred into the sound mix. So the pillow provides a little bit of sound dampening. Okay. I want to start with a little bit of just what it's like to make this thing. So after recording the first 2 episodes, I'll be honest, the thing my mind goes back to the most is my earliest childhood memory of my mom's hands on my throat, choking me, or the knife over the crib when she had planned on killing me. And it's interesting, when I was giving talks about this book and about dementia, it was interesting for me because the dementia made my mother behave very angrily, with a lot of hostility. But then, of course, the mindfuck part of it is that when I was a child, Mom was also violent. So it's always weird for me to go back into this material, and every time I think I'm comfortable with it, all I have to do is not look at it for a while, and then when I start again, I realize I'll never be done working through these things, and that's just a fact of life. So I've noticed that since I started recording these episodes, and so by the time I'll finish tonight, I will have recorded the first 3 episodes all within a week's time, and yeah, it definitely puts me in a frame of mind where I get a lot more serious. I get a lot less funny. There's a lot less levity in my day. Yeah, man, it's very challenging thing. So I don't want to be reading this material with you also thinking, if you're on the early side of having to deal with something like this, where you're like, wow, Charlie's so well adjusted. It's amazing. Yes, I'm well adjusted within reason, but these kinds of things, I'm just realizing more and more as I get older that when you had a mother whose struggles led her to have behaviors like, I'm so angry I'm going to put my hands on my child's throat now, that kind of stuff just... It's it doesn't get better, it gets different for you as the survivor of that kind of stuff. And I look at dementia like that. When you're a full-time caregiver for someone with dementia, once you've survived all that, it doesn't get better, it gets different. And then on the other side of the coin, because this is also a book about terminal cancer care for a loved one, when you're taking care of someone who is going to die no matter what you do, that also leaves an impact that you might spend the rest of your life contending with. So, an interesting thing happened this morning. My day started with a WhatsApp video call. I was like, who was video calling me at 9 a.m.? But I mostly use WhatsApp for international friends, so I was like, okay, this could be interesting. And it was a friend of mine who will remain anonymous for, because I didn't ask them permission to share the details, so I won't share who they were. But this friend of mine called, and they live in Europe, and it's been a while since we caught up. It's been a minute. And so we chatted, and I told them about the podcast, and then they told me something I did not know about them, which is they had a close relative, who ended up experiencing, I will just say similar things. And they were also a very involved caregiver for their parent. And I was just like, wow, there it is. That's why I'm doing this. That's the magic right there, is because there's so many people out there. The thing this person said to me was, they don't get to talk about it much. And I laughed, and I was just like, Well, yeah, I mean, what do? You're at a dinner party. And then you're like, oh, let me tell you about this time I took care of my mom. And, and she was dying and she had the death rattle. You guys want to talk about that? Like, no one wants to fucking talk about that. But if you run across someone else who has been in that room and heard the death rattle for days on end, that's usually someone where even if they don't want to talk about it, they probably need to. And so again, that's why I'm doing this. So I don't think there's anyone who can't relate to this, since we all die or know someone who has died. And I'm just going to wrap up that little prequel there. But let's go to where we left off in episode 2. We left off in Charlottesville, Virginia. And we had woken up in the morning, and it was the first day of radiation for my mom for her stage 4 extramammary Paget's disease cancer. So, chapter heading reads, Radiation starts Thursday, 24th October 2019. I wrote this journal entry at 9:34 p.m., and I was located at the rented house in Charlottesville, Virginia. It's 9:34 p.m. My work day started at 9 a.m. and ended at about 8 p.m. We were just on the go constantly, driving to the new town, moving into the new and tiny apartment, attending our first chemo session, I said chemo by accident. That should say radiation. My bad. I will correct that right now. Our radiation session. Okay, I'm fixing this on the fly, folks. Attending our first radiation session and stocking the fridge. At the end of all the work, and once Mom was laying down to rest, I realized I was no longer needed. So I'd spotted this Korean restaurant named Doma as we drove to the hospital. I walked the 1 mile there from the apartment. It was about 8 p.m. at night, and I sat down for what was probably the tastiest bowl of kimchi jjigae I have ever had. And it was vegetarian. Holy smokes. The banchan was so-so, but the jjigae was amazing. And then my daughter called. And she's the one that discovered Korean culture and brought it into our lives, so it was a lot of fun gushing about how good the food was. Sidebar, kimchi jjigae is a hot Korean kimchi soup. Sidebar over. Okay, so that was the fun part of the day, LOL. And that was it. Sidebar, that was the only fun part of the day. So what happened before that? Back to the book. Nothing awful. Just a lot of reminders about what things are like now since Mom has more dementia symptoms. Here's some hints from quotes my mom said today. Paraphrased, sure, but near quotes, all spoken derisively to my father. This was said in the morning before leaving the hospital. Okay, just to make sure you guys get the context here. This is a sidebar. This is my mom speaking to my father, okay? Back to the story. This is my mom's voice. What the hell are you doing? Why are you just sitting there? Apparently my dad wasn't moving fast enough for her. And once we got to where we were going, she goes, oh my God, please tell me that you brought something else to wear. You can't be seen in public like that. Why are you doing this to me? Aren't I going through enough and now I have to deal with this too? This is awful. I just can't believe you are doing this to me. People judge people based upon what they wear. So what do your clothes say about you? They say that you are a bum. To all of these things, my dad does as always. He finds a way to try to smile about it. He never pushes back. He never tells her to shut up and to stop being so mean. He sometimes answers her insipid rhetorical questions by saying, no. What does it say when you are not properly dressed? As for me, I stayed out of it today. I grew up with treatment like that on a daily basis from her, and I never kept my mouth shut. Mom and we fought like enemies during all of my early years. Most of my youth was spent in combat with her unrelenting criticisms that always bordered on the absurd and obsessive end of things. When I left home at 18, I was determined to never return. I realized today that the dementia is returning her to the way she was when I was a kid. I love my mom, but I know better than to ever trust her kindness now. The dementia is rolling back the clock on all those hard-won decades of therapy that Mom did. My mom is the scorpion once again. You can save her from drowning, you can walk her across the river in the palm of your hand to the other side, and she'll be grateful, but she will sting you for your trouble. She has to strike those she loves. That's how she grew up, and now she knows no other way, again. And I wrote that as a sidebar. I wrote that with a question mark. I wrote, she knows no other way now, again, question mark. And if you're not familiar with like the old, fable, look it up. It's kind of cool. The story about I forget exactly what creature. There's a couple of versions where the scorpion wants to get to the other side of a river. And like sometimes it's a person. The scorpion says, hey, will you help me across? And the person goes, no, you'll sting me. And the scorpion goes, no, trust me, it's cool. And then they get the scorpion the other side and the scorpion stings them. And the person's like, why'd you do that? And they're like, well, I'm a scorpion. It's what we do. So I came to know my mom as the scorpion as her dementia was setting in. Okay, back to the book. The treatment. We had the first radiation treatment. Mom comes out of the room. We are in the seating area in the basement where the radiation clinic is. She says that she doesn't feel well. Within 10 minutes, she is livid. She's saying that she wasn't supposed to be able to feel it yet, and she wants answers as to why. She starts telling us what she's going to tell those doctors when she next sees them. She says, what are they going to do to protect me from this discomfort? My mom is the most afraid of even the slightest discomfort person I have ever known. If she even thinks of being in pain, she is literally experiencing pain. If she thinks that she is about to hurt from something, like a walk or a car ride or a heavy meal, she will be popping pills right away before anything even happens. And here's what I'm convinced of. If she lived alone and the pain couldn't be used to draw attention to herself, 99% of it would evaporate. But with dementia kicking in, her paranoia of discomfort is like a galloping horse spooked by lightning. And I want to do a sidebar here. I don't know if I made this completely clear. So basically, Mom walks out of her very first radiation treatment. And for those that haven't had radiation treatment, at least the kind that my mom had, it's really just like maybe a 15, 18-minute long procedure. And what happened is she came out. And as soon as she came out from this first radiation treatment, she was basically just like, oh my God, I'm nauseated from that one radiation treatment. And I'll get into why that's fiction in a little bit. Back to the story. So I've watched this my whole life. Mom managed to figure out her anger for many years, but this aspect of her never changed. And this issue is going to come to a tipping point during chemoradiation. She suddenly believes that the doctor's responsibility is to make sure that she feels nothing. And what I mean by this, folks, is in my mom's mind at this point in time, and as she was talking to us, she was telling us that doctors have ways to make it so she will literally not feel a single symptom from chemotherapy or radiation. In her dementia mind, suddenly that was the channel that she tuned into, and there's nothing we could do to get her off of that channel. And so back to the book, I say, well, this is news to me. I think it's news to her mind as well. And just like that, I realized that this is a new side of her addled mind that is being added to my burden. She was looking at us in the waiting room as we were leaving the office and saying things quite loudly so everyone could hear. She was saying things like, I can't believe how quickly it hit me. I can't believe that the doctors didn't give me something for this yet. Why didn't they tell me this could happen? But here's what happened. Nothing. I am an expert in when mom is actually having symptoms versus when she is imagining it. And she wasn't actually nauseated or symptomatic within 5 minutes of her very first radiation burst, but her mind was. Her mind felt sick from the thought of it. And to my mom, there is no way for her to separate or discern what she thinks from objective reality. To my mom, any pain at any level is an emergency. Dementia or not, that has always been a fact. For the last year, every time you went into doctor's offices and they asked the routine question, "Are you in pain right now, and at what level?" my mom would love that question. Oh man, she loves it. She'd always say, while wincing, "Oh, I'm about at a 5." And the nurses would try to not crack up. They'd have a look on their face like, "Oh, really?" On a 1 to 10 scale, you are at a 5, but didn't wince or moan or act like it in any way until I asked you, that's what the nurses would be thinking. So another person's 1 on a scale of 1 to 10 is a 5 to my mom. I can't even explain how obsessed she is with her pain and discomfort. She keeps doctors in business with her list of things that need fixing. So you have to understand that this is the lens I see her through. This is the context of her cancer and her dementia. A lifelong fixation on pain and dying and fear. This cancer is what she's been waiting for. This is her boss level in the video game of life. To stay sane around my mom and to not buy into her tales of physical woe over the course of my life was to become immune to it. You became so weary of hearing the same things over and over from her as a child. And through her continual list of symptoms and complaints, these were the ways that she controlled us. Because she would use her random illness and or pain or mystery headache to get what she needed from us as a family. If she wasn't feeling loved, she'd craft a symptom, because that meant we had to help. That meant she would be taken care of, guaranteed. She'd have us waiting on her, hand and foot, as the saying goes, like servants. As long as she could say that something was wrong with her, the control would continue, because she knew that if she was sick, then her servants would not be able to refuse to help. And for her, doctor visits were like being loved, having someone's undivided attention. And yeah, I do wish she was stronger. To end this on a slightly funny note, here is what happened for breakfast today. On the drive up north, my parents stopped and got some food. What was the food, you ask? What was the food? They bought Tahitian treat soda, Coca-Cola, and, drumroll please, a big heap of donut holes. Yes, this is how my mom really lives life. When I got to the house, after eating at Doma in the evening, she actually said to me, if you are hungry, we picked up some food. It's on the kitchen counter. So, obvious sidebar here. Yes, I went in and I looked at the kitchen counter, and the food was literally just the soda pop and a big heap of donut holes. That was my mom. Next chapter, A Need to Believe. Thursday, 24th, October 2019. So this is, I believe, the next day. Time, 10 a.m. Location, temporary Charlottesville house. I was awakened by the sound of my dad and mom talking. It's 10 a.m. or so. Dad starts off. Oh, and I just want to stress here, this is a sidebar. I just want to stress that when I put quotes here in this book, these are actual quotes. I was literally typing as they were talking. And then other times I would jot down things they said and save them for later and then put them in my journal entry when I wrote later. So these are actual quotes. So again, I'm awakened by the sound of my dad and mom talking. 10 a.m. or so, Dad starts off. So, how do you feel this morning? Mom says, how do you think? Dad shrugs his shoulders. I don't know. Bad? Yeah, you got that right. Real bad. So she says this like in a mocking way to my dad. Then she goes on and on about how that single dose of radiation just shouldn't have made her feel bad at all, and how she is having diarrhea and nausea due to the one dose of radiation. Then on to how the doctor should have prepared her for the quote-unquote wave of symptoms. So there she is talking about how ill she is, how nauseated she is. But then it dawns on the clear-headed thinker, just how much does a truly nauseated and sick person want to talk about how nauseated and close to throwing up they are? They don't. They don't want to talk. They don't want to move. My mom, though, she's up right now in the kitchen, covering Eggo waffles with butter and syrup. I don't honestly know how I'm going to cope with this bullshit. A bit later, she comes out of the bathroom holding a towel and says, "You and your father shouldn't use this hand towel. I'll keep it in my room. The radiation. It's already coming out of me. I can't let it get onto you guys." Here's an update. 12:20 p.m., so 2 hours and 20 minutes after my last entry. She's on the phone with the radiation doctor's office to set something up. She's telling them angrily that she wants her meds and that she's upset that she instantly had symptoms. The nurse on the phone indicates that this isn't likely. Sidebar, what I mean by that is the nurse on the phone is indicating to my mom, without telling my mom, it is impossible that you had symptoms after one treatment. Back to the story. My mom pushes back. She says that they, quote unquote, radiated a large section of my body, and she uses her hand to indicate a huge section of her torso, even though it's a phone call and the nurse can't see her. This isn't accurate at all, actually. She's getting X-beam radiation, and is precise and focused and not generalized to her entire pelvis region. The nurse is a bit flummoxed and is now trying to create answers. But the problem is that what my mom wants is to have zero symptoms. And the other problem is, to date, no doctor or nurse is bothering to tell her that this is impossible. I don't know why they won't. On another note, my mom complains of fainting spells, nausea, and diarrhea every single day. This is one of the hypochondriac parts of her psyche that no amount of therapy could ever root out. No joke, it's rare that she skips a day without one of these symptoms. But now she's fixated on all of these symptoms being from the radiation. She is sitting there on the couch now, and she's laughing with the nurse on the phone. She's having fun. And she obviously feels pretty good. I challenge Mom once she is off the phone. I ask her to consider that maybe it's not connected to the radiation at all, since she has always complained of these symptoms for as long as I have known her. She freaks out. She starts pacing. She covers her ears with her hands, and she shakes her head to block me out. All new behaviors I have never seen her do before. And I just want to do a sidebar here. It was wild, folks. I ventured forth just to try to reason with her, to try to help her. And I mean, she literally jumped up off the couch. And if you got the video thing, you can see that she literally jumped off the couch, threw her hands over her ears, and she started shaking her head side to side. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening? I mean, I was just like, my mind was blown. And it's weird because only looking back in retrospect can I observe that moment objectively and go, that's the dementia, 100%. But I still didn't know it. All I knew enough to write here was all new behaviors I've never seen her do before. But I was so slow to grasp what was dementia, what was, it was just a mess. All I can say is it was a mess. Back to the story. Meanwhile, 15 minutes later, she agrees. I ask her to consider approaching symptoms from a resiliency angle, that she'll do better with all of this if she accepts that there will be symptoms. So then I'm like, and here's a quote, okay, so let's say that yesterday is how you will feel for a little while. Can you learn to live with that? Because if you were saying that you can only make it through this if you have 0 symptoms, then you will have a much rougher road. Mom, that was only day 1. She says, I know what you are saying is true. In my mind, I have all the same thoughts, but I don't know how to get there. And sidebar, like what this conversation was really about was so you can see the dementia coming through when she jumped up and shook her head and put her hands over her ears. You can see me trying to use kid gloves to say, well, Mom, let's say that the symptoms you had yesterday are related to the 1 dose of radiation. Let's find a way to approach this from a resiliency angle. And she actually listened. And so that's what you find with dementia, especially in the early stages, is that it's like Jekyll and Hyde. That's all I can say. They can be completely acting very strangely one moment and then in their right mind another moment. And it's really hard to know which one you're going to get. Next chapter, settling in. Friday, 25th of October, 2019, time 3:50 p.m., Temporary Charlottesville House. So today was interesting. My parents and I, had a lot of tough conversations about nausea, resiliency, and money. We ate out at a really nice restaurant named Quality Pie. We had a great conversation with the owner, Tomas, at the restaurant, and Mom cruised through her second day of radiation. I am down to $700 in my bank account. Yikes. Okay, same day, 9:45 p.m. So what, about 6 hours later? Okay, it's Friday, Mom's 3rd radiation appointment, our first weekend in this temporary new location. She barely slept at all last night. In the middle of the night, I woke up to hear them whispering in their bedroom. Mom starts off, I can't take it. I had no idea it would be this bad. If it's going to be like this, then I won't do it. I give up. So that's her speaking. And when she says shit like that, you aren't supposed to listen. You were supposed to do something to fix it for her. That's what she wants. And when you can't, she'll then say it 10 different ways until maybe you can. And of course, we are only at day 3. Her symptoms, the real symptoms, they haven't even started, and she's throwing in the towel already. Our scheduled 15-minute radiation appointment today lasted from 1:20 p.m. until 4 p.m. And just want to sidebar there, this happens a lot. So the radiation appointment itself still only lasts 15 minutes. But like, here's what it is. It's like, they'll say, come in at 1:20 for your scheduled radiation appointment, and you'll show up at 1:20. And then at 3:30, you're still fucking waiting for your appointment. That's generally how it goes in the radiation waiting rooms. And then once you get called back, then you sit in another secondary waiting room for 30 minutes. It's just so much hurry up and wait. It will make you fucking crazy. Just, that's how it goes. So our scheduled 15-minute radiation appointment today lasted from 1:20 until 4. Mom was very tired afterwards. The plan was that they would go back to Lynchburg today after the appointment and stay there for the weekend. And when I say Lynchburg, folks, that means Lynchburg is the same as Forest. The towns are right next to each other. I just know that it's the same town. Lynchburg is Forest. Forest is Lynchburg. One other thing I want to add is I mentioned earlier about Mom indicating that she had radiation to her entire pelvis region. So Mom's extramammary Paget's disease first manifested as a skin patch on her abdomen. The doctors ruled it as psoriasis, and for about 2 years, that's what they said it was, just a single mystery isolated patch of psoriasis. So she was misdiagnosed for 2 years, and then it turned out that it showed up in breast tissue, and they were like, oh, you have extramammary Paget's disease. What they then found later is that it had spread to her vagina. So the reason Mom was having her pelvis irradiated is because that is the source of where the cancer cells were originating. And So it's kind of complicated. Extramammary Paget's disease makes it sound like it originates in breast tissue, but it doesn't. It originated in her vagina. And then basically those cells are discovered in breast tissue. So that's how they know where the area where it began was. So they're targeting the original site. But still, her entire pelvis region is not being irradiated. X-beam radiation is very specific. And that's why it was invented, is because to help reduce the damage and tissue injury, X-beam isolates the radiation to a very small vector, where basically imagine if you take two pencils and you cross them, or you just take your fingers and you cross them, where the X meets in the middle, if your two fingers are like beams of radiation, the X, that's the point where the concentration area is that gets the most radiation. So anyway, just wanted to provide that background for you in case you're wondering, why is she receiving radiation in the pelvis region at all? So, all right. So let's see. The plan was that they would go back to Lynchburg today after the appointment and stay there for the weekend. And I would stay here at the house in Charlottesville by myself. We even had a big family talk. We had it all mapped out. But I'm standing here in the den at the Charlottesville house typing this, and it's just Mom and me. Dad left. He drove away with a smile on his face. Literally. He's checking out for the hard part. That's for sure. And we already knew this. Dad can't find his feelings with 10 hands in bright sunlight, so he's got to find the back door to slow things down. She's laying there in bed now. She just took even more medicines for diarrhea that she doesn't have. She took a strong dose of Finagrin. She took Zofran earlier. She just took loperamide. This is all in the last 4 hours. One of them would have covered it, even if it was as bad as she thought it was. She has gone to the bathroom exactly 0 times for a bowel movement since 1 p.m., but she keeps talking about it, focusing on it. Praying to be ill is what I call it. Her main reason for not returning to Lynchburg, she said her stomach couldn't handle the drive. When Dad told me that he was going to go without her, I couldn't believe it. Right after he said that he was going, I tried to talk to him. Me. What is it that you have to do back there that is so important, Dad? Him. There's an expensive sink that got delivered and it's sitting on the front porch. Someone is liable to steal it. Me. Okay, then I'll handle it. I'll go down right now. I'll save you the drive. I'll put it inside the house and come right back tonight. He looks speechless and he's searching for something to say. There's other things I have to do as well. Okay, like what, Dad? Well, if I'm not down there, people will think the house is empty. It'll look like nobody lives there, and it can get burgled. Oh, and I'll get the mail. Me. I can go down and get the mail, Dad. I'm trying to understand what is happening here, Dad. Look, I never agreed to watch Mom here solo on the weekends. I'm here because one person alone with Mom, it's a bit much. 2 helpers spreads the load, gives each person a break. If you leave, I get no break. Him. Oh, she'll be fine on her own. Go do what you want. What is it you want to do anyway? Me. Dad, that's not important here. What's important is that there's no reason for her to be left alone at this time. We have the coverage if you stay. It's avoidable, so let's avoid that. He goes, I leave her alone all the time down in Lynchburg. And I say, Dad, since she started radiation this week and was terrified for her life, how much did you leave her alone in the past few days? He goes, none. I say, that's right. So why do you think it's okay that we do it now? He says, because you're overreacting. It's fine. Just go out and do what you need to do. Dad, I don't want to be critical of your choices. You're a grown man, but I really feel like you were just wanting to go for one reason only, because you just want to. He laughs. Not a mean laugh, but the laugh of someone who just can't even come close to articulating that you've hit the nail on the head. Dad, we need to talk about expectations, I think. How do you see weekends going exactly from here on out? I never thought about it. I say, that's not true. Everyone has preconceived ideas about how a thing will play out. What were yours? What did you imagine that you and Mom would do on the weekends during this time? He says, I figured we'd go home every weekend. And I say, okay, well, I think considering that she can't even go home after 3 days of radiation, what do you think she's going to do once she is on day 5 of it and chemo that we've been told will be quite strong? He says, I don't know. And then there's a question hanging in the air between us. Dad, are you planning on going back home every weekend by yourself and leaving me here alone as a solo helper? And I realized, yes, that was his plan. Later in the evening, Mom and I talk. We play 1.5 hours of Boggle. That part was odd, but fun. I spend very little one-on-one time with my mom. It's weird being alone with her now that she has dementia stuff going on. I just know that lately she's more likely to lash out when she gets triggered. Anyway, we talk about her conversation last night, the one where she didn't want to go on living because the radiation is so hard already on day 2, because it was day 2 at the time. At this stage, I'm still confident in saying that we have not dealt with any one single symptom from the radiation or the cancer. All we are struggling with is my mother's mind, her predilection with illness and death. You know what? I might be saying that word wrong. Let's try that again. All we are struggling with is my mother's fixation with illness and death. So I flat out ask her, Mom, how long have you been so sensitive to pain and discomfort? When did it start? To my surprise, she doesn't get angry. She looks at me funny from the side. She starts speaking in measured tones, but not elevating towards anger. Charlie, I have a relationship to those things that is set in stone. It doesn't change. That's just the way it is for me, and it won't change. I'm telling you that my body could handle the treatments, but my mind and my spirit just can't. Or maybe it just won't. I don't want to go through it, and that may mean that I won't stand for it. And I say, okay, but why? People more feeble than you and older than you survive worse. She says, that's true. All I can say is that I don't have whatever it would take. I don't think that I do, at least. But also, I definitely don't want to just lay down and die, so I'm going to have to figure it out. And I just want to do sidebar here. This is kind of blowing my mind, like going back and reading this now, even though I've read through this so many times, this is also the first time that I'm really realizing how much I wasn't having a conversation with my mom. This was having a conversation with dementia. Like, yeah, it's just the way she was logicking doesn't logic. All right, back to the book. It's 10 p.m. now, and she's on the phone with a friend, waxing poetic about how hard things have been so far, how she can't eat anything because she can't hold it down. I bristle when she answers their question, how has your day been, Phyllis? Because my mom loves telling people how awful it was. She loves saying, not good at all. It was awful, really. Okay, this is the last entry I'm going to read for today. It's called The Stinky House. Sunday 27th, October 2019, 11:46 p.m. Location, Airbnb, Charlottesville. Note the location, an Airbnb in Charlottesville. Why am I not at the rented temporary house, you might ask? Well, let's get into that. Okay, it's 11:46 p.m. I am at a gorgeous Airbnb, this absolutely charming spot on Belmont Avenue in the historic area of Belmont, a neighborhood adjacent to Charlottesville, right on the corner of Avon Street. I think it was Avon Street, but I'll get back to that because you need to know about the last couple of days. Okay. So, sidebar here. I wrote this on Sunday, all of this on Sunday, but I'm going back in time to Saturday. So, Saturday, Mom wakes up and says she needs some clothing from Lynchburg. So, this is the morning after Mom and I played Boggle, and she had this strange conversation with me. So, Mom wakes up and says she needs some clothing from Lynchburg, and Dad won't be able to find these clothes. I ask her to reconsider, saying she can always get some new clothes up here. She says yes. Then she says no. Then she says yes. I have nothing else to do. And my saying no to driving her all the way to Forest will lead to a massive fight that I abso-fucking-lutely do not want to have. So, to assuage her addled mind, we get in the car. I drive the hour and change there. She actually eats a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, then washes it down with a McDonald's hot chocolate. I say that in quotations to alert you to something. Because Mom tells me with enthusiasm, quote, "It's really some of the best hot chocolate that there is," end quote. Let that comment hang in the air. I'm trying not to chuckle. She gets so serious about her food. But really, Mom, the best there is? We get to the house. I help Dad line up a water heater guy because upon arrival, I discover the fucking water heater is busted. Dad didn't paddle, hike, or do anything fun at all. Instead, he spent his time down there meeting with plumbers and installers, and he went to an urgent care clinic to get something looked at and probably slept minimally. He definitely didn't get the break I was thinking he'd get, or the one he obviously needed. I also left within 15 minutes of getting there. I turned right about face and drove back to Charlottesville because something was rotten in the Queen's City. Stinky stuff, ripe, awful smelling. It had been growing each day in the new house in Charlottesville. The house was in a sweet location. It had everything we needed, but it also had something we didn't need, a heavy urine smell. It seemed to be emanating from the kitchen, the bathroom, the hot water heater closet, the floor in the hallway. It was like someone took a spraying cat and just held it by the head and pointed its nether region all over the fucking place, like a powered misting device. As the weather warmed over the last week, the smell increased and rode heavy on the air day by day. It sunk into our noses, and by the time Mom left the house on Saturday, it was actually a bit nauseating, even for me. Yep, not only are we dealing with disappearing dads and moms imagining nausea and the realities of cancer treatments and broken water heaters, I also now have made the incredibly hard decision that we need to consider moving out. The landlord is intractable and not helping. They're sort of like, "Can you describe the smell?" And they're stalling. Additionally, I found that there is black mold stains along the tile and grout of the bathtub. This is the tub where Mom is supposed to take these super sanitary sitz baths to help heal and prevent infection after the radiation treatments burn her skin. Oh, and I haven't yet mentioned that the carpet was covered with a former renter's long-haired cat hair. By Saturday, it all added up. We had stench, we had mold, we had cat hair. I alerted the landlord that with my mom's situation, that this really wasn't what we signed up for. On the drive down to Lynchburg, I made the choice to vacate our belongings, and I had to find us a new place to be immediately. After leaving Mom and Dad's house in Lynchburg, I went to the Stinky house. It smelled so rank. I got my climbing shoes and my trail running shoes. I got back in the car and I drove to a place called Mint Springs Valley Park in a little town called Crozet. First, I did some trail running, then I hiked. This place was in full fall leaf season bloom. The wind was blowing. The sun was bright. It was fucking heaven. All I wanted to do was lay down and die. Just die. Not forever, but for a while, definitely. I let my face do what it wanted to do. It fell all heavy-like. It was expressionless. My eyes didn't want to stay open. Not from sleepiness, not that. It was like they just didn't want to see anything for a while. I didn't want to be anyone, or I wanted to be no one. both. I found the crappiest excuse for boulders I have ever seen and tried to do some bouldering since I had my climbing shoes with me. It was bad. It was choss. It was so crap for climbing. My shoes were back off in 15 minutes and I was chuckling. I didn't care. I was just so over the moon to be outside in a forest. I laid down with my head on my Camelback water pack and I just disappeared for a while. I cried from sheer exhaustion, from the output, from having jumped off the ledge of my own life to help my parents when I knew I was too tired to be doing so. I cried because I feel like I only exist now as a caregiver. The tiredness was just all in me and on me, and I didn't feel like it was going to break me. And I didn't feel like it was going to break me once. I felt like it was breaking me over and over. It was already too late for holding it together. Everything was happening at full speed. I was just having a 10-minute detour from the racetrack and I knew it, and that's what felt so sad. The loss of any kind of real exit ramp. A sense of a very long road ahead, even though that's all I have known for 12 years already. Is it too much to want to break? Is that selfish? I got up. I drove to town. I went to see the Three-Notched Road Baroque Ensemble. I filmed them twice before in my videography work. They were transcendent. God, that was good in healing music. Then I went into the Virginia Film Festival and watched the film You Don't Know Me. Wow. Then I went to Christian's Pizza. Wow. Then I went back to my stinky ass house and I tried to sleep after my 100 push-ups. And I don't think they're making me any skinnier. So then we come to Sunday. Sunday was over the top. Just too much. My parents are still in Forest. The landlord came over. She comes in and doesn't really want to make eye contact. Is she worried about not being able to afford to give us our rent money back? I already told her that we are not staying no matter what. My mom will be in the hospital from 8 to 5 p.m. tomorrow on Monday for her first 5-hour chemo infusion of cisplatin. I need all obstacles the fuck out of my way. We don't need to come to a goddamn smelly house with black mold and cat hair. I say that in a nicer way to the landlord. She doesn't listen at all. She gives no fucks. She beelines it for the bathroom. I say, I know you can smell it in there, but that's not the only source. She says, oh, I have a very keen sense of smell, so I can tell you where it's coming from. I respond, okay, but it's also in the kitchen cabinets and in the heater closet. But she's ignoring me. She says, here it is, right here. And she's on her hands and knees in the bathroom, sniffing the floor next to the toilet. Yep, that's it, she says. They must have had pee or something here, and they let it sit. I say, okay, that's cool, but we are still going to find another place. My mom can't come back to the smells of that or of the cleaning it's going to take to fix this smell. She ignores me again, and she starts spraying literally all of the bathroom floor with some Clorox blend of magic in a bottle. I wander the house. I sit on the couch. I'm trying to understand this person's communication style. All I know for sure is that she isn't seeming excited about talking directly to me. After about 10 minutes, I go into the bathroom, and she has coated the floor with some horrific smelling chemicals so much that it's killing my throat. So I open all the windows in the den. The landlord then covers the floor with saran wrap. Yes, saran wrap. Can I just say that again for those of you sitting in the back of the room? The bathroom floor is now a wet mess of Clorox crap and actually encased in saran wrap. You'd have to step on the wrap in order to use the sink, toilet, or tub. She says, so, your parents aren't coming back? I say, no. And she says, okay, but are you still staying the night? I say, oh, I write. And so I wanted to say, and this is what I wrote, I wanted to say, I might have come back before you saran wrapped the Clorox soaked floor. She says, okay, cool. She appears ready to leave, like everything is, in fact, cool. I say, we really need to get on the same page with how this is going to go down. We're moving out because of things that we didn't know about this home, and now we are in a very tight spot. So how do we work this out? She says, we will find something agreeable. I'll see about getting someone else in here soon. She's impatient to walk out. I'm unsure how to proceed. It's like we both speak English, but also like we don't. I'm not even angry. I'm just completely flummoxed at how what I'm saying to her isn't sinking in like the Clorox on the bathroom floor. Isn't she supposed to feel badly that her crappy care of her rental property has put my mom out of a place the fucking day before her first chemo? She leaves. I walk into the bathroom. I sniff the air. I am like, fuck this fucking place. And I commit to moving out immediately. While this is going on, I'm getting text messages from other people I had reached out to through connections. I have a 3 p.m. meeting for an offer of a free house. What? Yeah? A guy who was in a movie I made has a father-in-law here, and his father-in-law just up and offered us his home for free. So when Stuart, the guy with the free house, so when Stuart, the guy with the free house, said he would meet me at 3 p.m., I booked a night for myself at an Airbnb and got a hotel for my parents. They came back earlier than planned to move out of the awful house. I'm going to say that again. They came back earlier than planned to move out of the awful house, or the stinky house. We were all a bit frantic, in part because the landlord had started texting me in all caps. Here's a text. No refund. She was also sending us other fun messages like, clean the apartment, ! Then she started outlining the conditions under which we must leave the home, quote unquote. Home? ? I said, yeah, we're not doing any of that. I let her know that the house would be returned in the condition in which it was given. So in between my frantic cleaning and wondering where the fuck we were going to be spending the next month and how we would afford it, she texts me in all caps, you broke the lease, and saying that she's doing us a favor by letting us break the lease. I can't tell you how stressful this scene was. And we left that place like it was the fucking shadeless desert. And then we met Stuart. Stuart was awesome. Stuart was not weird. Stuart was a nice guy with an awesome house in a great neighborhood who lived with his awesome girlfriend in another part of town and was barely ever home. So we said yes to his 4-bedroom, 2-story house. We ran some errands. We got some dinner. We were all so relieved to have an actual nice place to stay just in the nick of time. So, sidebar here. So then what happened is that night, Sunday night, we went our separate ways though. I stayed at the really nice Airbnb in Belmont, and my parents stayed at a hotel because Stuart wasn't quite ready for us to just jump into his house. So, we moved in to Stuart's at about 6 p.m. today, which would be Monday. That's the sidebar. After about 12 hours, do I have these days wrong? Okay, I might have these days wrong. Just bear with me. Here's what I wrote. So we moved in at about 6 p.m. today, about 12 hours before my mom's first big day. Why are things so fucking hard? And why do they require so much effort? These things keep happening to us in the same fashion, where it takes everything I've got to push through, where I just want to lay down and give up because it's honestly too much. Tonight, my parents were so beat. They were nearly falling over themselves with tiredness. So I set up most of the house at Stuart's. I brought in everything from the car. My parents, they don't pack light. I ran a long errand to Target to get items that we needed. I was on the clock, house hunting and maneuvering today from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. While driving, I was having a hard time seeing at night. My system was just shot to shit. Again, no exercise, just the 100 push-ups and one meal, a very greasy grilled cheese sandwich. It was truly a roller coaster of a day, and all along knowing that it's all on me. None of this would have happened without me. That sounds wrong. What I mean is that all along, I am harrowed by the isolating realization that no one else is going to help my parents but me. I am who they have. I spent plenty of the day talking in my mind to my brother, asking him why he isn't calling us to see how things are, asking him why he isn't offering help, wondering why he doesn't spend time thinking about all that I am juggling, why he isn't looking into a mirror and asking himself why he isn't doing more. I emailed him earlier in the morning today. I implored him to at least reach out to mom and dad to ask them if they needed help financially. This was before Stuart's free house offer, and I was thinking our only option would be a place I had found for about $2,000 a month. I asked my brother if he could help because at the time I thought we really needed it. His response to me, no help is coming. It hurts too much sometimes. I was so sure we would be allies in this. And that is the end of today's reading. That is the end of episode 3. Just have a little bit of a sneak peek into what happens next. It is chemo day number 1. That's where we're going to kick off next. And I want to mention as you were listening to all these stories to just remember these are my experiences. They're just mine. Not all cancers, not all dementias produce the same kind of behaviors that you are hearing about. And before we go, I want to talk about the project logo cover art. It's made by my youngest child, Zoe. And yes, that is an actual photo of me climbing out of my mom's actual pillbox from 2020, thanks to the magic of Photoshop. And the intro and outro song that you can't stop humming out loud, well, that's an original tune composed and sung by my eldest kid, Quinn. He recorded this when he was helping me take care of my mom, and he even played it for her once. Last but not least, I had that track sound mastered by Jay Siebold at sieboldsound.com. If you ever need sound mastering and mixing work, be sure to look him up at sieboldsound.com, and I have him linked in the show notes. On YouTube, I've also posted a standalone video of just that song in case you want to play it on repeat. Sometimes I do. And finally, if you are watching this on YouTube and you want to hear it as a podcast, then Google us at Our Worst in your favorite podcast app. That might not be correct to say Google us. You know what I mean. Or just check the video description for this video here on YouTube for a link to the podcast. Conversely, if you're on the podcast and you want to find the YouTube channel, just search for us at Our Worst Podcast. And the link to it is in the show tones for the podcast as well. That's all sort of confusing, isn't it? Anyway, all I can say is it's a little extra work trying to figure out how to make sure all the podcast listeners know that it's also a video and that all the video watchers know that it's also a podcast. I think the easiest solution is just watch it on YouTube, turn your screen off and just listen to it like it's a podcast. Anyway, that's it. Here's the outro music.
If you want to know what I think, I won't give that up for free. Put a penny in the crusher, on the back's my memory. I'll hold real still, you take the shot, but I don't want to see whether it turns out or not, it's all the same to me. If you want to know how I feel, put me down and walk away. My hands are already bloodied here in bed. I think I'll stay. In dreams I face dread most mundane when walking down the street. My pounding heart shocks me awake the moment our eyes meet.